Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to say thanks to the God Almighty because He has given us an opportunity so we can gather in this session to deliver our research paper. And this is an honor for me. I'm Yohannes. I'm from Mathematics Education Study Program, Graduate School, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, Bandung. So in this occasion, I will deliver our research paper entitled Does Discovery Learning Enhance Secondary Students' Mathematical Critical Thinking Skills? Okay. Next, in these presentations, I will explain 4 parts. The first about introduction, the second about method, the third about results and discussion, and the fourth about conclusion. Now let's move about introduction. As we know that in this era, the human are possessed to own the forces competencies, and one of them is critical thinking skill. Critical thinking is an important ability that must be possessed by students based on Birgeli 2015. And as we know that the implementation of learning in school, we use several learning model, and one of them is discovery learning or DL. Discovery learning model in mathematics learning has been widely used because it is recommended in the national curriculum. And many studies have examined the implementing the discovery learning model to improve students' mathematical critical thinking skill. And what result the studies obtained? The majority of the finding in the study agree that the mathematical critical thinking skills of students taught by using the discovery learning model are better than those led by the conventional learning. While several other studies find research findings shows that the opposite results. And these differences in findings also indicate that there are multiple measures of effectiveness and tend to reflect inconsistencies in the conclusion from one another. In addition, the influence of study characteristic cannot be answered by the primary studies. So we need a method that can be solve these inconsistencies, and therefore to obtain more comprehensive and holistic information regarding to the effect of implementation the discovery learning model on students' mathematical critical thinking skills, meta-analysis can be relied on to achieve these goals. Now let's talk about method used in this research. The research method used is systematic review method with formal statistical analysis, namely meta-analysis. And the sample used in this research is 25 respective studies, which obtained based on the inclusion criteria that determined by the researchers. The inclusion criteria in this study refer to the PICOS, where it contains the first about population. All the primary studies included taken from mathematics education articles, and second intervention. The intervention observed in the primary studies is discovery learning model, and the third about comparator. The comparator observed is a conventional model. The fourth is outcomes. The outcomes observed based on the primary studies is mathematical critical thinking skill. And the fifth about study design, we observe the primary study which carried out with quantitative research. And then additional inclusion criteria used are primary study limited to the last 8 years, and the last, it contains adequate statistical information. After we obtain 25 respective studies from selecting them due to the inclusion criteria, and then the next step is we do the data extraction using coding form. And then using this coding form, 25 studies were extracted to obtain necessary empirical data based on the study primary data. And then after that, after we obtain the all data needed, using the assistance of ICMScE 24.0 and Comprehensive Meta-Analysis or CMA 3.0 software, this study determine and interpret the first inter-rater reliability using kappa test, the second about bias publication and sensitivity, the third about effect size each study independently and the combined effect size, the fourth estimation model of effect size, and the fifth the impact of several study characteristics. Now let's move about what result and discussion do we obtain in this research. The first step we do is calculate and analysis the inter-rater reliability by using Cohen's kappa. We have two coders that extract the data from the primary studies, and then after the two coders obtain all data, so we do the calculation by using kappa, Cohen's kappa, and we obtain the kappa coefficient value was 0.85, with the significance of the agreement level of the two coders being in the good agreement category. So we can continue to the next step. It is about bias publication test. We do three bias publication tests. The first one about funnel plot, the second trim and fill test, and the third about percentile FSN. Based on the final plot, as you can see in the slide, the effect size distribution on the final plot spreads fairly evenly and is symmetrical on the left and the right on the final plot, which is bounded by the vertical lines showing the combined effect size. Because it is spread fairly evenly and symmetrical, we can say that the all primary data included in this analysis are bias-free. And then move to the next bias publication test. It is trim and fill test. According to the table, there were no studies that should be cut off from the analysis based on the right and the left side of the symmetrical line in final plot, meaning all of those studies are bias publication free and further analysis can be carried out. And then move to the third bias publication test by using Rosenthal's FSN. The Rosenthal FSN calculation, we obtain the result is 13.91, which the value is a bit higher than 1, which means all the studies being used during the analysis process withstand the publication bias. So the interpretation according to the preliminary findings, all of those studies are bias publication free and further analysis can be carried out. And second, after the publication bias is fulfilled, the next step is to interpret the effect size heterogeneity. Now, what we can interpret from the heterogeneity test, it is found that the combined effect size has high effect criteria with the value of effect size is 0.981. And if we see the Q value with DDF is 24 and alpha 5%, it is 213.927, which means the Q value is greater than the Q table and statistically shows that the effect size in each study is significantly different. So based on this interpretation, the appropriate estimation for the data analysis being used along with the heterogeneity is the random effect model. So we use the random effect model to do the further analysis. And then according to the table, in the random effect model, it is found that the Z value is 6.083 with the P value is 0.000. And since the P value is less than 0.05, it can be concluded that the discovery learning implementation has a higher impact on students' critical thinking skills rather than the conventional model. And then because we obtained that the random effect model is the appropriate model used to the further analysis, so we can do the analysis for study characteristics. In this research, we determine 5 study characteristics, namely year of study, level of education, sample size, duration of treatment, and publication index. Each of these study characteristics consists of certain groups you can see in this table. And then based to the null hypothesis, this one, test of null, p-value for each characteristic study is less than 0.05. 0.05, yeah, means that the implementation of the discovery learning model significantly affects secondary students' mathematical critical thinking skills than the conventional model in terms of all study characteristics. And then according to the p-value, you can see here, p-value for heterogeneity test, we obtain first p-value for characteristic of year of study, level of education, and sample size. We obtain the p-value are greater than 0.05, means that there is no significant difference in effect size between study groups based on the year of study, level of education, and sample size. And the second finding, the p-value for characteristic of the duration of treatment and publication index are less than 0.05, means that there is a significant difference in effect size between study groups based on duration of treatment and publication index. What we can interpret from these findings, the impact of duration of treatment and publication index are considered in implementation of discovery learning in mathematics learning, yeah, to enhance students' mathematical critical thinking skill. And then according to the result and discussion, we can conclude first, discovery learning model implementation in mathematics learning has a high impact toward the students' critical thinking development, with the effect size value is 0.981. Second, the discovery learning model implementation is more effective to enhance students' critical thinking skills than the use of conventional model. The third, there is no significant difference in discovery learning model implementation towards students' critical thinking skill that based on the study characteristic as follows: year of study, level of education, and sample size. The fourth, based on the duration of treatment and publication index, the study reveals that there is a significant difference in the use of discovery learning model towards students' critical thinking skills. And the fifth, all the findings revealed in the study can be relevant information in relation to the effectiveness of discovery learning model implementation in order to enhance students' mathematical critical thinking skills. Other than conclusion, there are some limitations based on the finding in the study, such as, first, this study excluded several references to be used in the analysis process due to the data limitation. The second, the study is limited by the research scope, which only use Indonesian secondary students as the subject of study. And then the third, the study characteristics being used in this research are limited to only 5 aspects, namely year of study, level of education, sample size, duration of treatment, and publication index. So it is possible to do the next further research to fill the gap that find in this research. And then before I close these presentations, I would like to say thanks and gratitude to Lembaga Pengelola Dana Pendidikan or LPDP for financial support in this study, and also thanks to all authors of the primary study used in this meta-analysis study. Okay, I think that's all my presentation. Thank you very much for your kindly attention. If there is any question or suggestion, please let me know. I think that's all. Thank you. And if you want to contact me, you can see my personal email here. You can contact me by using this email. Thank you and see you next time. Good morning, everyone.